Some people think detachment means you stop caring. Others think it means your heart became cold. No, detachment is not the absence of love. It is the presence of self-respect. And Islam does not teach us to destroy ourselves emotionally in the name of patience. Let me speak to you honestly today, because many of you are suffering quietly, not because Allah tested you, but because you refuse to let go of what Allah never asked you to hold. Just because something feels strong inside your heart does not mean it is good for you. Not every feeling deserves loyalty. Not every attachment deserves protection. And not every emotional bond deserves to stay. One of the greatest mistakes we make is assuming that intensity equals truth. If it hurts deeply, we think it must be meaningful. If we miss something badly, we think it must be necessary. If letting go feels painful, we assume holding on is righteous. But Islam never taught us to worship our emotions. The heart is powerful, but it is not always wise. The heart can want what weakens it. The heart can crave what drains it. The heart can cling to people, situations, or memories that slowly hollow it out. And if you are not careful, the heart becomes addicted not to love, but to attention, validation, and emotional dependence. There are people who are not attached to someone because of goodness. They are attached because they are afraid of being alone. There are people who stay in painful connections, not because they are loyal, but because they are terrified of silence. There are people who keep reopening old wounds, not because healing hasn't come, but because pain has become familiar. Islam never told us to obey every feeling that passes through the heart. If that were the case, anger would rule us, desire would control us, fear would paralyze us. Instead, Islam taught us discipline of the heart. It taught us awareness. It taught us to question our emotions instead of blindly following them. Ask yourself honestly, is this attachment bringing me closer to Allah or further away? Is it strengthening my character or weakening my self-respect? Is it helping me grow or keeping me stuck in emotional exhaustion? You are not rewarded for holding on to pain. There is no ajr in suffering unnecessarily. There is no virtue in repeatedly reopening wounds Allah is trying to heal. And there is no nobility in staying attached to something that continuously harms your peace, your dignity, or your connection with Allah. Some people confuse pain with patience. They think enduring emotional damage is sabr. But sabr is not self-destruction. Sabr is restraint with wisdom. Sabr is choosing Allah over impulse. Sabr is knowing when to stay and knowing when to release. You are rewarded for trusting Allah enough to let go. That trust is not easy. Letting go feels like falling. It feels like uncertainty. It feels like stepping into emptiness. And that is exactly why it requires iman. You are saying, Ya Allah, I do not understand what comes next, but I trust you more than I trust this attachment. When something repeatedly hurts you, this is not a test of how much pain you can tolerate. It is a message. When something distracts you from your purpose, consumes your thoughts, and drains your emotional energy, it is not love anymore. It is harm wearing the mask of attachment. And when something pulls you away from your dignity, when it makes you beg for attention, chase validation, or question your worth, then it has crossed a dangerous line. Love does not humiliate. Care does not degrade. An attachment that destroys self-respect is not something Allah asks you to protect. Allah does not love harm for His servants. He does not want you broken, depleted, or emotionally enslaved. He wants you grounded. He wants you dignified. He wants you whole. Sometimes letting go feels like loss, but in reality, it is preservation. You are not losing love. You are losing what was costing you your peace. You are not abandoning loyalty. You are choosing self-respect, and self-respect is not arrogance, it is amana. It is a trust Allah placed within you. Remember this, not everything that enters your heart was meant to stay. Some things enter to teach you, some enter to wake you up, and some enter only to show you what you should never accept again. When Allah removes something from your heart, it is not always punishment. Sometimes it is protection. Sometimes it is mercy disguised as pain. And sometimes it is Allah making space for something better, something healthier, something cleaner, something that does not demand you sacrifice yourself to keep it. So be brave enough to question your attachments. Be honest enough to admit when something is harming you. And be faithful enough to believe that Allah's replacement is always better than what you are clinging to. You were never created to live chained to emotional pain. You were created to live with dignity, balance and trust in Allah. And letting go when done for the sake of Allah is not weakness. It is strength guided by faith. One of the most dangerous misunderstandings among believers is this idea that patience means staying wherever you are hurting, that if you leave, you are weak, that if you walk away, you failed the test, that if you set boundaries, you lack sabr. This misunderstanding has trapped many good people in emotional pain for years. Patience in Islam was never meant to turn you into a doormat. Sabr does not mean tolerating disrespect. Sabr does not mean accepting humiliation. And sabr does not mean remaining silent while your dignity is slowly stripped away. Patience is not the ability to endure anything endlessly. Patience is the ability to respond correctly. Islam teaches us restraint, not self-erasure. There is a big difference between a test and a warning. A test strengthens you. A warning drains you. When Allah tests you, He gives you strength to endure and growth through endurance. But when something repeatedly breaks you, weakens you, and pulls you away from your values, that is not a test to stay. It is a sign to step back. Some people stay in harmful situations and call it patience, but what they are really practicing is fear. Fear of being alone, fear of confrontation, fear of change, fear of losing someone they have already lost emotionally. Sabr is not fear. Sabr is courage under control. The Prophet, peace be upon him, never taught people to remain where they were constantly disrespected. He never praised humiliation. He never glorified emotional suffering. He taught dignity. He taught boundaries. He taught strength with mercy. Look at his life. When people rejected truth repeatedly, he did not chase them. When harm increased, sometimes he withdrew. When a door closed, he trusted Allah to open another. That was patience. Patience does not mean staying in a place where your heart is insulted daily. Patience does not mean allowing someone to repeatedly cross your boundaries and then excusing it with religion. Allah did not send Islam to make you smaller. If someone consistently ignores your feelings, dismisses your worth, or treats your presence as optional while benefiting from your loyalty, patience is not staying silent forever. Patience may be speaking once with clarity, and if nothing changes, patience may be walking away without hatred. That is not anger, that is wisdom. Some people think leaving means you lost. No. Sometimes leaving means you finally stopped losing yourself. Sometimes staying is not strength, it is attachment disguised as virtue. Ask yourself honestly, is this situation helping me become a better believer? Is it bringing peace to my heart? Is it increasing my closeness to Allah? If the answer is no, then do not use sabr as an excuse to remain stuck. Allah does not need you to be destroyed to prove your faith. He does not need you to bleed emotionally to earn His pleasure. Patience is not about how much pain you can tolerate. It is about how much trust you have in Allah's wisdom. Trusting Allah sometimes means believing that walking away is safer for your soul than staying. There are people who misuse the concept of patience to control others. They say, be patient while they continue to hurt you. They say, make dua while refusing to change their behavior. They say, this is your test while benefiting from your silence. That is not Islam. That is manipulation. Islam does not teach one person to be patient so another can be unjust comfortably. Allah is just and He does not ask you to cooperate with injustice against yourself. True patience has boundaries. It knows when to endure and when to disengage. It knows when to wait and when to move. And it never requires you to abandon your self-respect. If you are constantly anxious, constantly questioning your worth, constantly drained, constantly begging for basic decency, then something is wrong. And patience does not mean pretending it is normal. Sometimes patience is staying calm while you leave. Sometimes patience is resisting the urge to argue, explain, or seek closure from someone who refuses to listen. Sometimes patience is trusting Allah with unanswered questions. Walking away does not mean you hate them. It means you love Allah more than the attachment. It means you refuse to let someone's behavior define your emotional state. It means you choose peace over chaos. And Allah honors that. Remember this clearly. Patience is not passivity. Patience is not silence in the face of repeated harm. Patience is not staying where your dignity is slowly dying. Patience is strength guided by wisdom. Patience is faith with boundaries. Patience is knowing your worth and trusting Allah to protect it. If you are walking away today, do it with calm. Do it without bitterness. Do it without arrogance. Leave the outcome to Allah. He sees what you endured. He knows what you released. And He knows what He is preparing for you next. May Allah grant you patience that heals, not patience that harms. May He grant you wisdom to know when to stay and courage to know when to leave. And may He replace what you walked away from with something that brings peace to your heart. Ameen. When people hear the word detachment, they imagine bitterness, they imagine coldness, they imagine a heart that has hardened because it was hurt. But that is not detachment. That is unresolved pain. True detachment does not make you angry, it makes you clear. Bitterness is loud. It keeps replaying the past. It keeps arguing with people who are no longer present. It keeps demanding explanations. Clarity is quiet. It accepts what happened without needing revenge or validation. Many of you are not suffering because of what happened. You are suffering because your mind is still arguing with it. You keep revisiting conversations. You keep replaying moments. You keep thinking of what you should have said, what they should have understood, and how things could have been different. Detachment is the moment you stop negotiating with the past. You stop trying to rewrite what already occurred. You stop chasing closure from people who are not capable of giving it. You stop explaining yourself to those who already made their choice. And that is when peace begins. Clarity means you finally see people for who they are, not for who you hoped they would become. It means you stop filling in their silence with excuses. You stop justifying patterns that keep hurting you. You stop saying they didn't mean it when the behavior repeats itself again and again. When someone shows you who they are consistently, clarity means you believe them. Detachment does not require hatred. In fact, hatred keeps you emotionally tied. Anger keeps you invested. Resentment keeps them living in your heart rent-free. Detachment is different. Detachment is emotional neutrality. It is the ability to remember without reopening wounds. It is the ability to think of someone without your heart tightening. It is the ability to wish them well without wishing them close. That takes maturity. Some people think closure comes from a conversation. But often closure comes from acceptance, from saying, this is who they are, this is what happened, and I no longer need to fight reality. Islam teaches us to accept qadr without surrendering our dignity. You can accept what Allah allowed without approving what harmed you. Clarity means you no longer personalize everything. You stop thinking every action was about you. You realize people act from their own wounds, fears, and limitations. That understanding removes resentment. But clarity also means you do not keep giving access to those who misuse it. You can understand someone without keeping them close. You can forgive someone without trusting them again. Forgiveness cleans your heart. Trust is earned. Detachment allows both to exist without contradiction. Some of you are afraid that if you detach, you will become cold. No, coldness comes from suppression. Detachment comes from healing. Coldness is shutting down because you are afraid to feel.